Hi, this is the Pauline Long Show. It's a very popular global talk show. As you know, watching us from right here in the UK, you can always tune in on Sky Channel 182. That's Ben Television. We want to discuss issues that affect you. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening from wherever you're watching us. Welcome to this rather serious show. I know every week we bring a bit of Nollywood and African film, but today is something a bit more serious. Immigration matters. The phone lines are not open to ask your questions, but of course you can send us your questions to info@paulinelong.com or to our WhatsApp number. Now, joining me is the Director of Immigration Enforcement for London and South, Paul Wylie. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. Very good, thank you.
Good to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you, Pauline.
And I know I said earlier on that the lines are not open, but I wish they were open so they could ask you the questions directly, because they're going to bombard me with the questions.
I'm sure they will.
Now, let me ask you, what is the role of your department with the Home Office?
So within the Home Office, it's our responsibility to kind of deal with people who are in the UK illegally. Now, in the past, that's been a lot about kind of using our arrest teams to find individuals and kind of forcibly remove them from the UK. But what I'm here to talk about today is actually there is an alternative.
Did you say there is an alternative?
There is an alternative, which is to voluntarily depart. And I don't think enough people in the African community know that this route exists, and also how they can get in touch with us.
So what do? They basically just come to you and say, you know what, I've had enough, I want to go.
Well, exactly, it's exactly that. But we need to be clear about how people can reach us. Everything that the government's doing right now is making it hard to be in the UK if you're not allowed to be here. We're already kind of closing bank accounts. We're closing driving licences. We're making it more difficult to access the NHS, and you sort of have to start paying for it. And as of the coming Monday in England, it will be a requirement for landlords to start checking immigration status as well. So everything is going to get more and more difficult to be here.
Yes. Is there any difference between nationalities seeking relief to stay in the country?
We don't target any particular nationality. There are some countries where there are more of them than others, but that doesn't mean we're going after.
Like which ones?
So if we're talking about the African nationalities, there are more Nigerians than some of the other countries, but we don't target Nigerians or target Kenyans or any particular country like that. What we try to do is use our Arrest Act people to go after the more serious individuals. So I hope you'd join me in kind of saying that we want to target the rapists and the murderers and the most serious criminals in that way.
Right.
And those are the people that we kind of really need to force out of the United Kingdom. But actually, the vast majority of illegal migrants aren't necessarily criminal, and there is an alternative for them, and that's for us to pay for their flight home on a normal scheduled airline. The good thing about it is that unlike a 10-year ban, and it's at least a 10-year ban for an enforced removal, it could be just a 1 or 2 year ban. So
if you volunteer to just remove yourself, then it could be less, a few years.
Less of a ban from the UK, which is particularly good for, say, students who want to come back and do things properly later, or people with family here. The other benefit, of course, is that they're not in our version of prison or detention for that period. So we give people a few weeks to sort their affairs out. You know, they might be waiting for a certificate, or they might be waiting for some money to come in, arrange for some help on the other side when they get back. They can do all that while they're in the community rather than behind one of our detention
sites. Let me just ask a question that I don't have here. But it does sound quite, you know, what would I say? It's quite generous. How come Africans are not taking it on, you know?
Well, it's a good point. If you compare, say, the Indian nationality, I think far more Indians in their community know of this existence. So several thousand took it up last year from the Indian community.
Right.
Whereas for the African nationalities, you know, the proportion is far less. And I think if we're not careful, we could be kind of removing people, arresting them and forcing them out, when actually if they were more aware of this, they might have actually come forward and said, actually, I'll take the offer I'll return, I'll set up my business back in Nigeria with my family or wherever they're from in Africa, and kind of move forward with their life.
Wow, incredible. Okay, so another question I have for you. Do you encourage people to explore all avenues to regularize their stay in the UK within the law before you enforce removal?
Yes, so it's a requirement on us to make sure that everyone's had their legal advice. We really do want to make sure that
Do you help them with getting the legal advice?
So we don't pick particular lawyers or anything, but we do say, kind of, please do find a reputable lawyer or a reputable immigration advisor. And I must stress, not all of them are, so make sure that they are people who aren't just selling you.
But do you have a list of them?
No, because it's a commercial operation. We don't favour one over the other. It's entirely their choice. We just say, do check out all the facts. We give them a period where they can have that access to legal advice.
What is the plan of your office to support people who leave voluntarily to settle down in their own countries, as this might help to encourage more people to return to their countries? If you just outline, the plan and the benefits you've got for them.
Yep. So there's a couple of different options here. So I'll talk about two types of people. Say individuals without children, so maybe a single male, for example. The kind of option to them is, as I say, you avoid being arrested and forcibly removed, and it helps them get back to their home country on a normal airline. And you could be on a normal Virgin airline. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know who they were, any different to any other passenger. Return back to their country. The good thing for them is that when they arrive, they'll have told their friends or family, they'll be able to meet them. We're actually talking to a number of churches and mosques at the moment about what else we could do back in home countries to
make sure they settle in.
To assimilate them back into the community, because it may, for some people, it may have been several years that they've been over here.
Yes.
For people with families or failed asylum seekers or other groups that are particularly vulnerable, we'd have a different service which is a bit more about helping them, not in money, not in cash, but in terms of kind of giving them some funds to restart a business in their home country, or some assistance at the airport when they arrive, especially for families with children. It's really important to make sure that they land properly and safely.
And they have a place to go to.
In most cases, yeah. So the whole point of our Home Office Voluntary Return Service, VRS, is to make sure that the people who are able to be eligible for that additional help, the most vulnerable families, etc., they're given that help when they arrive.
Wow! So it's actually quite a smooth transition.
That's the aim. And what's really interesting is talking to some of the really important church leaders and imams in this country. They're really keen to make sure that they're joined up with their host churches and mosques back in the home countries, so that there's actually that continuation. One of the things that we're starting to roll out is what we call immigration surgeries. And this might be another reason why, say, some Indians are more likely to get this than others. We've got these immigration surgeries in a lot of Gurdwaras and Hindu temples until now, but actually they are plainclothed immigration officers like myself. There's a guarantee of no one being arrested. It's not
it's
a trap.
Just a surgery. They come in.
Exactly. It's a room in the church or in the mosque or on the sideline. It's advertised openly. If people want to come and talk to us, that's fine. We can talk through their options. And the first option is, of course, make sure you've got your proper legal advice. But if you've made your mind up, then we can arrange that flight there and then. And you can, in a couple of weeks more you can turn up at Heathrow, say, and board a plane as normal. So we've got those in 3 churches right now.
And how often do you do them?
Some of them are free weekly, some of them are a bit more ad hoc. But I can give you those details in a moment. The most important thing is that we expand that network a bit, and some really good and helpful Nigerian leaders especially are interested in helping us do that.
Great. Is there a legal migration?
Is there legal migration? There absolutely is, and Nigeria is one of the countries, and as well as most of Africa, is one of those countries that actually want more people to come here.
You want them to come here?
We want them to come here, spend tourist money. We want them to be students. We want them to, if they've got particular skills that we're lacking, come and work for the UK. And in return, if that's what they wish, the most important thing is though they do it properly. And if you overstay your visa, even just by a couple of days, it can actually stop you getting a visa in the long run.
Right.
So it's really important that if you're eligible and you're successful in getting that proper visa, really do take that time seriously. Because we want lots more people to come to the UK for where they're contributing.
Economically.
Exactly, but where they're not, and where the trouble is right now, there are probably some people from Africa are kind of in limbo. Perhaps they've overstayed their visa, perhaps they feel trapped because they know they can't afford the flight home. They're being persecuted perhaps by kind of unscrupulous landlords or unscrupulous employers.
They're suffering.
Exactly.
When they could, come to you and say, I want to go back.
Yes, exactly.
And you provide the flight.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. If the government is saving thousands for enforced removal, would it not make sense to spend a third of that money in assisting people to return home, which of course that's what you've just explained?
Yes, I mean, I think it's worth saying that for us it costs about £15,000 to forcibly remove someone. That's
which is
that's
more
UK
than just somebody
money.
coming.
Exactly. If we pay for their flight, it costs about £1,000. So there's a huge difference for us.
Big margin.
Exactly, and that's for our UK taxpayers. So we're using some of that gap, as I said earlier, on the most vulnerable people, and I'd hope your viewers would appreciate it. It's got to be for families and the more vulnerable individuals. But if we can do some really good work with some of the churches and mosques, then there's no reason why we can't offer other things like training opportunities back home.
If you are watching us, yes, we are live, but the phone lines are not open. But of course, you can send us your questions to the WhatsApp number. You can also send your questions to info@paulinelong.com. We are talking immigration matters with Paul Wylie, who's the Director of Immigration Enforcement for London and South. Paul, there's very, very good information there that I'm sure some of the viewers didn't know, and actually it's quite a good thing that the lines are not open, so you can give as much information as possible. Now, there has been news that people from the Commonwealth cannot be removed from the United Kingdom. How true is this?
I'm afraid it's not true at all. I actually wrote to the then Deputy Acting High Commissioner just in November, just to alert him to this practice, because I was from colleagues hearing that people were spending about £300 on these cards, which are not actually true.
But where did it come from?
I think it's a mistaken belief that by calling yourself a Commonwealth citizen, you can stay in the UK. And if things were that simple, then everyone would be doing it. And I think there's a lesson for us here in that if things sound too good to be true, they probably are. So get yourself a really good lawyer, get yourself a really good immigration advisor, and do things properly. But please don't spend money on things that aren't actually going to help you, because that could have been £300. You could have bought your first month's rent back home or something. It's preying on the vulnerable.
Make it very clear that even though you're from the Commonwealth country, it does not. You're not entitled to stay here.
No, I'm afraid not. You do need. If you're from one of the African countries, you do need a visa to be here, or you need to be joint citizenship with British, etc. There needs to be a legal reason here. Just coming from that country, I'm afraid, won't protect you.
Now, within the African communities, especially Nigeria,
right.
They feel they're targeted unfairly. I mean, this says Nigeria, but I've had whispers of other African countries as well. But Nigerians, they feel that they're targeted unfairly by the Home Office, especially the way they're treated at the airport. How can this be taken forward? Because I've seen some, news online as well with regards to this.
So we have no policy of kind of targeting one particular country over another.
Yes.
What my colleagues at, say, Heathrow, really, it's their whole job is to make sure that the visa is correct, as in the passport's correct, but also the person that stands in front of them in the queue is that person, and also
It doesn't matter their nationality.
Exactly. They do have to go through and satisfy themselves as an immigration officer that this is the person in front of them, and also there's been no kind of corruption or complicity to get them in here. That's what's really important with that. So it may feel like that, but I promise you it's not.
To make it very clear, you're not just targeting Nigerians.
Oh, absolutely not. No, it's if you think when you arrive, say at Heathrow at Arrivals Hall, there's the European side, there's the non-European side, and everyone gets treated the same in that group.
Okay, I hope that you had that, because there's a lot of Nigerians that watch this TV station. I hope Paul was very clear on that. But as I said, if you do have any questions, please do send them via email. I know some of you are probably aching to go on the phone line, you know. Okay, so there are significant lack of trust about the Home Office within the community, the general African community. How do you intend to address this and sort of bridge the gap and restore the trust so that they can also come and say, you know what, I want to volunteer and go back? How do you intend?
I think it's a really good question, and if any of your viewers have the answer, please let us know.
Do you want to just address them?
Please do. I gave a speech to the High Commission. They were really good to us.
Nigerian High Commission?
Last summer, exactly. We had 50, I think it was actually 80 of the top imams and pastors and church leaders and Nigerian and other kind of community leads. And for many of them, actually, it was the first time they'd heard this message that there is an alternative. And since then, we've been working really closely with some of them to see whether we can kind of build some trust. What I find when we set up these immigration surgeries is that for the first, say, 3 months, no one comes anywhere near us because they think it's a trap. Right. And I don't blame them. But what that means is, you know, after that, once the first couple of people go, you get the photos back saying that they're having a good life, they've set up their own business.
Do they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe
we got one just yesterday.
Don't you want to use this as a, you know, for publicity as well, just to let people know, because I've never heard of this, you know. And maybe we want to put a press release out, people sharing their views, you know, with regards how you supported them and now they're having a good life.
Absolutely. I think if anyone's got any ideas out there as well, let's do that. I mean, what we know is, you know, if the Home Office says it, doesn't necessarily get trusted in the community. I think the more that pastors, imams, community leaders, the media start saying it, actually the more likely the people will start to trust it and realise that there is an alternative.
Incredible. What is your take, as some people believe that when asked to report to the reporting centre, it's an attempt to trap them and you know, detain them and just go in their jeans or whatever pair of trainers, scruffy trainers they had on. You know, what is your take on it? Because essentially I think this is one of the reasons why maybe they're not coming to the centres.
Yes. I think there's a difference between our surgeries, which are kind of plain clothes in the community, and what we call our immigration reporting centres. And for those of you who don't know what they are, they're effectively the ability to avoid detention for a period. So if someone's going to be removed straight away, we will probably, in an enforced way, we will probably put them in this one of our immigration detention centres. But if actually you say we need to revalidate a passport with the home country, or they've got an appeal outstanding, or it could be a number of reasons, then we ask them to report. And often it's only, say, once a month. But the most important thing is please keep reporting. Because if you don't, and the next time we encounter you, it probably means that we won't trust you anymore. And that will mean that you go into detention regardless.
So these people at the detention centres haven't made up their mind whether they want to voluntarily go back? Well,
I think that's a good question. The people who are reporting may not always know that there's a voluntary option. And what I'm trying to get to with our reporting centres right now is whenever someone turns up at reporting, really do make sure that they're fully aware that, you know, there is an alternative. They can take a flight home. They can have a 1 or 2 year ban rather than a 10. They can go ahead on a normal scheduled airline rather than a charter. There's lots of good reasons for doing this if you've decided that you are end up going to be removed anyway. So that's what we're trying to do with our reporting centres now. I mean,
so they can turn up there
exactly.
and also just decide there on the spot and say,
Yeah.
you know what, I want to go back.
Exactly. I mean, if it should be said that if people keep reporting and they keep ignoring the voluntary departure message, there is still a chance that yes, they could be detained once their appeals is out with or whatever. So I can make no apology for that, because if they've had the alternative offered to them several times and they're not taking it, you know, the government still has a right to kind of force people out. But I think too many people don't know about it in the first place.
Right. Now, if there's anyone watching who's in a situation, I know you mentioned it earlier on, you know, a landlord might be, you know, they might be in a difficult situation with the landlord.
Yes.
They might be in a difficult situation with work, and they're watching now and they don't know what to do next. If they come to you and say, I voluntarily want to go.
Yes, well, the best way to do that, I can give the website, which is, if you go to www.gov, which is gov.uk, if you search on that, you'll have details of our voluntary return service. The phone number, if it helps, is 0300 004 0202. That's 0300 004 0202. And they can pick up the phone to the Home Office representative and they'll talk them through how to make a voluntary departure. Alternatively, I can give you the two the free surgeries that we have now, which are St Ignatius's Church in South Tottenham, the Voice of Comfort in Elephant and Castle, and Christ I can't pronounce my first name. Apostolic.
Let me pronounce
no, it's me.
Yeah.
Apostolic in Hackney. And those are just the start of our surgeries. I'm hoping that by the end of the year we'll have many more in mosques and community halls and churches, because actually the more that we have that kind of release valve for people in a safe place, in a place that they trust, they know it's not a trap, actually we can start helping people who are kind of stuck in limbo.
It's the beginning of a healthy dialogue for them.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, I'm sitting right next to you here, and you're quite friendly and, you know, human.
Oh, thank you.
I have to let them know. So
Sure.
if there's anyone watching and it was also, you know, a bit, you know, scared to come and approach you guys, what would you tell them? Do you want to just look at the camera and just speak to them live? And
I mean, I think what's really important to know is that we actually don't want to arrest everyone. I've said this many times in churches and mosques. Not everyone believes us, but it is true. If you think about it, it doesn't make financial sense for the government to try to force that many people out, and it doesn't make practical sense. Actually, we want our immigration detention centres to be full of the most serious criminals, rapists, murderers. That's, I would think, what you would want, what the UK population would want. So on that basis, there is an alternative, and this is it. You can go home with just a 1 or 2 year ban rather than at least a 10. You can go home on a normal airline rather than a charter flight, or with kind of big burly men as escorts either side of you. And most importantly, actually, it's about dignity, because when you return, you can restart your life. For some people, it's a good chance to kind of get themselves settled and reapply for a proper visa later. And you'll stand much more opportunity doing that. For other people, it's about getting back to their families and starting a business. And again, we've got some really good case studies of people who've done that, and you're absolutely right, we need to get that message out more.
Incredible. Paul, thank you very much for coming on to give us such vital information. No doubt we'll invite you again. Thank you.
I'd be honoured.
Thank you very much for watching that session. And again, we were not able to take the phone calls. Please do send your questions via WhatsApp and email. Don't go away. We'll be right back.